Welcome everyone, this is Wrath, and today we're going to do a walkthrough of Act 5, Chapter 2, Map 5, Insurrection. This was again requested by one of our viewers, and we're hoping this will be a good run-through for everyone to show you how to beat this map. So this is going to be the easiest path in my opinion. So again, my opinion, the global node for this one is Bane, which basically means as soon as you hit your opponent or you get hit, whoever got hit gets a curse on them, which is going to cause them to start to degen compared to the opponent's health, and that's going to then transfer to the other person within 10 seconds. What that means then is you need to watch that counter on the upper right. You see the skull with the circle going around. When that goes down to 0, it's going to transfer you no matter what. It can transfer early if you get hit. So what that means is you're going to have to time your attacks to make sure that you're going to hit in your combo when that thing actually gets to 0. Otherwise, you're going to start taking regeneration damage. So in this fight against Moon Knight, what you're going to do is you're going to use your combos to get that to switch back to him. If your combo isn't long enough, which we kind of saw at the beginning of this video, you want to use your super to push your combo longer so that way you can get that Bane to stick back onto your opponent. So if you're just a little bit short and you think your combo is going to end a little too early, use your super. The alternative strategy to this, which you actually should do at the same time, is to go to your third super, in which case then you can use your third super to actually just force the Bane to go back as soon as it transfers to you. Now make sure though, because the third super activates instantaneously, you have to use it right away after the Bane actually transfers, not beforehand. And so go back and take a look again at that Moon Knight video if you aren't familiar with Moon Knight. The big thing is that his first super has a throwing star, then you have to dodge a melee, then you have to dodge another throwing star, so it's more difficult. The second super is easier to dodge, so I would try to push Moon Knight to that second super. Alright, so Psylocke, nothing super special about her as long as you don't get hit. So for the big thing for Psylocke, make sure that you try to either bait her first or second super. Her first super is basically a sword attack that ends in a dash forward sword attack, so basically you're just going to dodge backwards to get out of that one, which you'll see here in a second. The second one is going to be basically a mind blast that you're going to have to dodge back once for the melee and once for the mind blast. So again, you see me here trying to bait this super out, it's just not working. Just make sure though again that you get that combo in so that it transfers the Bane back. So here you're going to see her super soon as I'm trying to bait it out. But again, look at that Bane timer. You just have to make sure that you get that combo back in if it's not working. So here's her second super, dodge back for the Mind Blast, and then you're able to get back in their attack. The degen is not horrible in the sense that you can take some of the degeneration damage, so don't change up your strategy too much. Just make sure though that you're trying to time your combos and your supers to get that back onto your opponent quickly. So far we've seen Moon Knight and Psylocke. Neither one is extremely difficult, but now we're moving into Civil Warrior, which I would say, again, you can use a standard strategy of basically parrying and then comboing back, again, using your super to push them past it. And then if you're trying to bait a super, make sure you try to bait the super early in the Bane cycle, so that way you're not getting caught with their super animation while it transfers to you and you degenerate. So if you're going to bait, make sure you bait early. So right here, you're going to see me use my super to basically push that Bane back onto them to extend my timer. So for Civil Warrior, his first super is basically he just hits the ground with a shield. Make sure you wait till the end of that animation because it seems like it ends early. So here, you have to wait till right after the shield goes away, otherwise you're going to bounce off the shield. The second super is basically kind of this combo where he jumps up and then kicks forward, which again is completely dodgeable. Just get way out of the way, just dash back 2 or 3 times just to make sure you don't get hit by it. But overall, there's not a big strategy for this one. It's just you're going to have to bait his first and second super and then continuously get that combo going so that way you can transfer that Bane back. Another big thing here is that if you get hit, it's not only going to cause you to take massive damage because these are such high level characters, on top of that you're going to degenerate. So that's why you're going to have to be very careful. Another thing that you might have noticed when I've been flashing up the nodes, this path that we just went to is True Strike, so no evasions are going to work or armor, so it doesn't really matter as long as you're not getting hit. So again, Iron Fist, same strategy as before. You're going to parry, you're going to attack back and combo. Make sure you use your super, like right here, to push that Bane back on to Iron Fist. And then his first and second super are completely dodgeable. As soon as they activate, just dash back 2 or 3 times just to make sure you're out of the way, and then dash in to get your combo. So again, you see me using a super to push that Bane marker back onto Iron Fist. So just keep watching this a few times. I would recommend that you watch this video once to get through each of the fights, kind of see the way that you should dodge the Banes for each of the characters, and then watch it again as you fight through these nodes, so that way you can see right before you fight the combos that they use. The reason why this is important is that the different animations for the supers have a different length of time, and that's going to mean a different length of that Bane marker counting down. So if you're going to bait a super, and it's a really long super, so for instance, Moon Knight's first super is very, very long, then you're going to have to make sure you bait very early, otherwise you're going to get caught degenning during it. So here's Archangel. Again, for this one, you're going to basically do your standard stun combo, use your super to push the mark forward. What you just saw there was his first super, which is 2 feathers that he throws at the beginning, then a swipe, and then another feather at the end. A lot of people miss that last feather, try a dexterity out of the first part, and then get hit by the last right there. So if you're going to dexterity, you're going to have to dexterity 3 times, or 2 times, depending on how far away you are from him. So just make sure that you don't get hit by that last feather, because it will cause massive damage with degeneration. Again, as you see here, you can go to your 3rd super, but just make sure you activate the 3rd super after Bane transfers to you. Otherwise, it will then just tick down after your 3rd super, and then you'll get it. So again, not much strategy for Archangel other than just, again, comboing. His 2nd super is right there. Just make sure that you notice at the end of the animation is basically just a wing swipe, and then you can dodge in after that. But again, do not get hit by it. I would say throughout this map, if you are not confident dodging a particular person's super, I would just take it on the shield, because in general, if you mess up that dexterity on this map, it's going to cost you a lot. So I would say the shield damage is okay. You can take it, especially if you have a regeneration champion like X23, who you can regen as you're going along. The other thing that I didn't mention is maybe you've seen me kind of selecting different champions that seem a little weird. The class relationships on this map are reversed. So if it indicates that mutant is going to beat a skill, then it's actually going to be the opposite. So just make sure that you're noticing that, and so that you actually want to choose the opposite. So if against a tech champion, you're going to want to choose a mutant rather than the opposite way. So again, Captain America here, he's extremely baitable on his first super. His 2nd super is harder. So I would recommend you baiting off the first super. So really try to make sure you're trying to get that first super out, and then that way you can make sure that you get that Bane counter going. So again, there's not much to do here, but it's very easy to mess up very quickly. So right here, actually, I believe that I mess up on Captain America. I believe I mess up one of the dexterities. We'll see here in a second if that's true. But just again, it's a very simple strategy, but you just have to get that timing down. Sometimes, though, they won't bait. So if you notice right here, he's just not using his super, and that's an issue for me because he's basically just gaining super energy, and I have to push him past his first super, which I don't want to do. But yeah, so right there, I dodged incorrectly. It's not undoable. For the most part, you'll dodge the 2nd supers perfectly, but sometimes you'll dodge them a little low because of that, because of the time for the projectile, which I just screwed up. So don't do what I just did there. Definitely dodge the actual shield, or just take it on your shield. Don't do what I just did. Anyways, doesn't matter which champion. Like most of these strategies have been the same for any champion. Doesn't matter what you're using. I'm using bleed champions right now, but you could be using Star-Lord, you could be using any champion. Doesn't matter. The bleed is useful in just that it causes damage over time, so when you're trying to bait things, you're still causing damage. Now, this is going to be one of the harder fights for a lot of people. This is Civil War Black Panther. His big thing is that if you parry him, there's a good chance you're going to get stunned in return. So you cannot parry him. And this is different than Mordo, who if you parry and stun, you can just basically not attack him. This one will not do that. It will immediately transfer to you. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to dash back at the beginning, so you put your shield up, and you're basically going to only counterattack after a super or after he finishes his combo. So right here, his heavy attack ends with this big kick, dash back, and then just dash forward. His first super ends with a bunch of slashes, so you're going to dash in after that, and the same thing with the 2nd super. In general, the 2nd super is easier to dodge as it's not as fast. A lot of people will get caught by the first super because he covers a lot of ground very rapidly. Again, though, exact same strategy. Just make sure you're trying to get those combos in when Bane is about to tick over rather than a little bit later. So right there, I had to dash in, otherwise Bane would have gotten me. But again, it's all right. You can take a little bit of Bane as long as you can get in there pretty early. But the degeneration can be pretty substantial, especially if the opponent has full health. So again, big things are going to be hitting him with the end of his combo, or hitting him after heavy or after a super. Just keep doing that over and over again, and eventually you're going to get him down. Again, it's not going to be a quick fight. It'll be a longer fight. It's going to take some time. But again, it's just the same strategies over and over again for these guys. But just again, make sure you do not stun, which means you don't want to be using any champions that stun through an ability. So that's why I'm recommending bleed champions for a lot of this map. Alright, so now we're going in to Ronan and Thor. Both of them have very similar strategies. Again, it's going to be baiting their first super. Their second supers are going to be more obnoxious. So I would bait their first super. Here I'm just showing you a low health champion. So in this one, I need to make sure I don't get hit on the shield very often. So you'll see here that I'm going to switch to a strategy that retains the most health, but is a little bit riskier. And that strategy is you basically are going to bait the first super, right? And that's pretty standard. And then again, use your super to push through that. But then afterwards, after you end your combo, dash back early, dash in. And that way you can try to catch them as they dash after you. So this is a strategy you can use if you have very low health. It's basically you're just going to push them to their supers, bait them out. When they don't have a super at the end of your combo, you can dash out one hit early and then dash back in to get more damage in. So you can kind of study this strategy. This is a little bit harder to do. It also has the probability of you being hit, and just because you dash forward and dash back and dash forward doesn't mean they're going to follow in the same pattern, and so you can take damage. So there I just died from Bane because he was shielding and I wasn't able to get it in there. So overall strategy for Ronan is just going to be dodging that first super, using Bane to basically cause damage over time. That's the nice thing about this map actually, is that Bane, as long as you keep it on them, it's causing damage over time. And right there at 218, it's not bad. But anyways, use your combos to try to get that Bane back onto them. Time your baits so that way their first super isn't happening when it transfers. And then use your supers to extend your combo time. So that way you can get that Bane back onto them. And I'm saying Bane and Curse interchangeably. The Curse is what Bane is putting on. So now in Thor, it's the same strategy. They actually have very similar animations. So again, that first super is basically just going to be this beam forward, this shockwave forward. For Thor, it's lightning. And you're just going to make sure you dodge backwards. You basically can time it where you dodge backwards as soon as you hear that sound, or as soon as basically the lightning starts coming at you. And you can dodge in right afterwards. So I'd recommend basically just always trying to bait the first super. The second super is dodgeable. He basically throws his hammer at you after swinging it. It's just, again, if you mess it up and you try dexterity it and you get hit, it's going to be a high punish for that. So if you don't know the second super, but you have to get to it, just take it on the shield. It will be damage. But the big thing to note here is that you're better off taking damage sometimes. Like right there, you can back up a little bit on the video and see how you can dexterity out of that hammer. It's completely doable. But if you're not familiar with it, just like how I got crushed by that Captain America shield, if you mess it up, it's going to be a big cost versus just taking on the shield and hoping you don't get that much damage from it. All right, so again, dodge that first super, come back in, watch that Bane timer. Again, this path is the easiest path in my opinion, just because there's not a lot of weird nodes on it. There's not a lot of weird champions other than Black Panther Civil War, and in my opinion, Kingroot can be pretty devastating as well, depending on how familiar you are with him, which we'll get to in the next fight. So now, moving on to Kingroot. So Kingroot, he has the ability to basically drop any debuff with his Fury markers that are on, and then once that's dropped, he can then basically counterattack you right away. So you need to be very careful that your parries might not stick if they're stunned, and he has the Fury markers up, and also any of your debuffs might not stick as well. So I'm choosing Dr. Voodoo. He's a good counter to this, and the reason why he's a good counter to this is you can basically take away those Fury markers with your first super, so that way he's stuck into the non-able to shrug off stuns, which is very useful for Bane, because the problem right now is you can't stun him. So right now, first super took away his Fury markers. You see that gray clock down timer up on the top, which basically means right now he's in cooldown, so he can't basically shrug off attacks. Shrug off abilities like stun. You'll also notice that when this happens, he gets a regeneration mark, which you can either heal block or you can take off with Dr. Voodoo, which is why I like Dr. Voodoo for this one. Again, you're going to be using your first super to get that combo in. For Kingroot, the easiest super to dodge for him is his first super. Make sure that when you dodge his first super, you just basically back up 2 times. He's basically just going to do this swinging attack with his hammer hand. Just make sure you're far enough back from that one. And I would bait that one out. The second one is basically a poison stream. You can dodge it if you know what you're doing. If you're unfamiliar with it and you happen to get into a second super, I would just recommend taking on the shield, because ideally it would only happen that 1 or 2 times throughout the fight because you're trying to bait the first super. But again, try to make sure that he's in cooldown period if you're going for a parry and you're hoping it's going to stick. If he's in the Fury stage, if you try to parry him and try to immediately counterattack, there's a very good chance that he's going to hit you first. So just make sure that you're trying to get him down. Now, of course, if you're in a combo, then that's not affected there. So there was that poison stream. I just took it on the shield. Just make sure that if you're going to go for it, that you get the timing down. If not, I would just take on the shield. The damage isn't that high. Again, over this course of the map, there is a lot of damage in terms of chip damage through the shields. So it's good to have 1 or 2 regenerators, so like X23 or Dr. Voodoo. But you can make it through it because the damage over time isn't substantial as long as you don't get hit and as long as you transfer that Bane back. And then on top of that, the Bane actually helps you kill these champions faster because they are getting damage. I would recommend for having Despair on this, because the Despair is going to help you get through the Arc Overload for the boss, or you're going to have a heal block. So we'll get to that in a second when we get to the boss. So again, Kingroot can be pretty hard for a lot of people, so just make sure that you know what you're doing. You make sure that you know that if you try to stun him, you're going to get damage if he counterattacks you and you try to attack him. Alright, so now we're moving on to the mini-boss. And so the mini-boss for this one is going to be the Hood. The Hood, big thing is you do not want him to use a second super. The second super is going to basically cause you to not be able to hit him, as he's going to be basically invisible, and he's going to be causing a lot of misses, and it's going to mess up your combo meter. So I would not push him to a second super, push him to his first. I started this off with Vision, but did not go well. I suffered from that classic drop block, so you'll see here that I just fail at blocking him twice in a row, and that transfer of the Bane is devastating. You can die very rapidly. In general, if you don't mess up like I do, Vision's great because you're able to basically just take away his power to make sure that he doesn't get any more power above the first super, and then you're able to get that timing down. So in general, if you can power control throughout this map, it's also great because power is the big problem. So you saw there I just dropped 2 blocks in a row, and that did not go so well. So now I'm going to do it the right way with the next champion. And so I'm using Black Panther here. So the same strategies again. It's going to be parrying the attacks, counter-attacking after the parry. So right here, parry, stunned him, attack him, and then you just do it again. Parry immediately afterwards. Basically, after you finish a combo, if you're in the middle of the map, they're either going to dodge backwards, or they're going to basically try to attack you, or they may guard. If they dodge backwards, that's fine. Just kind of reset and get ready for the next charge in. If they guard, that's fine. Do the exact same thing, basically back up and then reset. And then if they attack you, you ideally will parry them and stun them. Again, if you're going to bait his super, which you need to do, bait it earlier in the Bane cycle, so that way you have the time for the animation to kick off. So right here. Now I can get back in there and then transfer the Bane back in. Alright, so now we're getting to the boss. The boss has a bunch of buffs on him, but the main ones to note are going to be Arc Overload, so he's going to regenerate. I'm going to use a Bleeder, which basically will allow me to despair down his Arc Overload, because with the bleeds that are there. Additionally, he has the Ancestral Curse on him, which is basically the thing from Guillotine, so you do not want to have a regeneration person on this one. So for instance, if I had used Dr. Voodoo, I would have degen at the beginning. So that's why I recommend having a Bleeder here, or for instance, Yondu, who can heal block. So heal block or Bleeder, or someone that can do a damage over time debuff for Despair. The more bleeds and other markers you get on them, the more Despair you have, the less regeneration they're going to have. So if you have 4 or 5 bleeds on them, they're basically not going to regenerate. So that timer in the upper right is basically a timer for his regeneration. Again, same strategy for Daredevil. First and second super are dodgeable completely. As soon as they activate, just dodge backwards, wait for them to end. watch the video to see when they end their animations. And then as soon as you're done with the animation, get back in there and attack. Again, use your supers to extend your combo to make sure that you have the Bane. And then again, bait his supers earlier so that way you can actually get that Bane transferred when the super is done. For baiting strategies, there's a lot of videos for these. You can look through my other ones as well. You're basically just going to dodge forward, attack his shield once, then dodge back. That can activate it. A lot of times they'll activate it if they're in a corner and you just finished a combo. Another one is basically after you use your own super, they might use their super. So there's a lot of different strategies. Another one is to just dodge backwards. They dodge towards you, and then you can dodge right away, and they might activate their super as well. So you see, as long as you have despair, it's not going to cause a big deal. I hope this video was helpful. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. If you have any requests for other videos that might be helpful, let me know. I would love to make more videos for everybody, and I would love to answer any questions you have in the comment sections below. Thank you.